What's going on, guys? Wayne here. So Bobcat is the latest heavy equipment manufacturer to announce that it's going to start offering electric machines. Well, kind of. Recently, Bobcat and a company called Green Machine, which, by the way, is starting to make quite a name for itself in these formative days of electric construction equipment. Bobcat and Green Machine made an announcement that establishes an interesting manufacturing partnership that will bring electric excavators to the market in a rather unique way. Now, we'll get back to that. But excavators aren't the only machines Bobcat is exploring electrification in. After all, skid steers and compact track loaders are the company's bread and butter. And back in March, Bobcat brought a compact excavator, a skid steer, and a CTL to ConExpo that cumulatively represent two different approaches to machine electrification. So today, we're going to take a closer look at Bobcat's work toward electrification. After all, last September, during the company's Next is Now event, which, as the name suggests, was really focused a lot on the company's kind of gaze toward the future, Bobcat VP of Global Innovation Joel Honeyman said at that time that electric machines would be slow in taking off, but would eventually take over completely. Now, for context, Honeyman was speaking about the direction of the construction equipment industry as a whole, but he wasn't excluding Bobcat's lineup from that trend. Specifically, Honeyman said it would be 2025 or so until electric machines, including obviously battery-powered machines, but also allowing for fuel cell models as well potentially in the future, before these electric machines would make up a meaningful amount of the Bobcat lineup. Okay, so if that's the horizon that Bobcat is aiming for when it comes to machine electrification, this partnership with Green Machine is Bobcat's starting point. And today, we're gonna take a closer look at that partnership at Green Machine. We're gonna dig into Bobcat's thoughts on electric machines and those two differing approaches to electrification at ConExpo that we mentioned earlier. And hopefully, through all of this, we'll give you a better idea of how the company is going about building the foundation of an electric machine lineup, because it's a very important company in compact equipment, and compact equipment is a very important segment of the equipment market when it comes to electrification. All right, so let's get into it. All right, now look, you're probably already aware that there are certain restraints when it comes to manufacturing vehicles of any kind powered by lithium-ion battery technology. And we could spend an entire video talking about just those limitations and the shortcomings of lithium-ion batteries, like cost and ramping up scale of manufacturing. But narrowing things down specifically for construction equipment, there are really two big restrictions that currently kind of jump out, and they are one, charging times, and two, range, or the number of hours during a workday that a full charge is going to get you. But there's one more obvious or common sense complication for the companies that are getting started with electrification, and that's complexity. These are companies built atop diesel powertrains. And not only that, but you also have to seamlessly integrate a new electric drivetrain with existing hydraulic systems. So pivoting to electrification for these guys is not going to be a quick process. Now, helping matters somewhat, and please don't walk away when I say this, but actually helping matters in this specific regard has been the increased amount of electronics and technology that have been introduced to the construction industry as a result of Tier 4 final emissions regulations, I know. But when you add in the advances in machine control, telematics, and all the other technology additions that have been made to heavy equipment in the last 15 years or so, what has arisen is the need for more intricate, complex, and advanced electrical architecture in these machines. Essentially, all of the electrical wiring that runs throughout the machine has had to be better. And that improved electrical architecture not only paves the way for electrification, but down the line, autonomy as well. So all of a sudden, getting electrification right has far greater implications than just electrification, because while we're still a ways off from a job site full of autonomous machines running themselves, providing full automation for customers that want or need it in the future is definitely on the roadmap, not only for established OEMs, but for startups looking for their chance to disrupt this industry as well. We mentioned earlier Green Machine, the company that Bobcat is partnering with on this first step toward electrification, this compact excavator deal. And Green Machine has built its company and its reputation on being able to address the issues we talked about earlier, those of complexity and integrating battery power with hydraulic systems on heavy equipment. And they've done that through retrofits on a variety of machine types and brands. At ConExpo this year, the company's work was seen not only at the Bobcat booth, but also at the Takeuchi and Case booths as well. In fact, Green Machine was Case's partner in developing one of the biggest announcements at ConExpo 2020 in general, and that was the battery electric Case 580 EV Backhoe. Now, we have a full video, just as an aside here, we have a full video on that machine, which if you haven't seen that yet, you can check it out at the link in the description below. But to devise these retrofit systems, Green Machine works with two partner companies. The first is Moog Inc. and the second is Whisper Drive. Now, Green Machine and Whisper Drive work so closely together that they kind of seem like they're part of the same company, or maybe even one is a subsidiary of the other, but they're not. They're two separate companies owned by two separate parent companies. And kind of adding to some of that confusion is that on the surface, Whisper Drive is a very similar company to Green Machine because it also has a focus on consulting with OEMs and devising methods for implementing battery technology into heavy equipment. Now, when it comes to Moog, Green Machine kind of leans on that company's expertise in electric motors and actuators, the components that provide motion to the tracks and tools on a machine. But here's another interesting kind of distinction about Green Machine is that they don't just partner as a consultant with OEMs looking to electrify their fleets. They also sell and rent their own machines that carry the Green Machine brand. The company lists 3 mini excavators, a mini skid steer, and a light tower for sale on its website. Now, 2 of those excavators are actually manufactured by Takeuchi and then retrofitted by Green Machine. All right, so with the need not only to figure out batteries as a power source and the increased complexity that brings to a machine's electrical architecture, it's not a surprise that Green Machine, along with all of these major construction equipment manufacturers, have started this work in electrification on the smaller end of the machine lineups. Now, to put it simply, smaller machines require smaller batteries, which require less time during a workday tethered to a charger. But there are other considerations too, like zero emissions being particularly attractive to jobs well suited for small equipment, urban job sites, interior job sites, utility jobs, and so on. Now, because of this smaller focus on machines, regardless of whether it's due to battery limitations or market pressures, this whole situation kind of means 2 different things for equipment manufacturers, depending on the types of machines that they make or specialize in. For companies like, let's say, Volvo Construction Equipment, which inside the industry kind of took the first major step toward electrifying a machine lineup when it announced that it hoped to replace all of its compact machines with battery-powered models, and they actually have a compact excavator and a compact wheel loader available for pre-order now. For Volvo, this restriction is kind of freeing in a way because it allows them to kind of dip their toes in the electric waters, and that's a bit of a dangerously mixed metaphor, but you kind of see what I'm getting at, right? Volvo's bread and butter isn't compact equipment, it's the larger stuff. So they can come out and make a commitment to electrify their smaller machines and expose that segment of their revenue to new technology while learning more about it and preserving the stability of their larger lineups. To Volvo's credit though, they've long been researching electrification, and much of that work did start with larger mining equipment, but the point still stands. They're selling their first electric machines on the smaller end. For a company like Bobcat though, it can't really waste any time now, can it? It doesn't have a whole equipment segment that it can kind of experiment with in an active market, take note of all the good ideas that actually worked, and then implement those good ideas on the right machines at the right time. Really, the closest thing that the company has to something like that, you could argue, is Excavators. Now, I don't want to suggest that that is the official reasoning behind this announcement with Green Machine. After all, Green Machine's primary focus has been excavators, and there could be some other aspect of this machine type behind the scenes and its engineering that make it a better fit or a better candidate for electrification at this moment than, say, a CTL or a skid steer. But I will point out that starting with excavators is a much more conservative approach in terms of what part of the Bobcat lineup is being exposed to the potential risks inherent with not only implementing a new technology, but partnering with an upstart outside company as well. And apart from the potential risk this move poses to Bobcat, this is also a rather different or interesting type of partnership. Now, just to be clear before we move forward, this specific deal with Green Machine only involves compact excavators at this point, despite the fact that the two companies are working together on other machine types, as we'll get into in just a little bit. But as part of this current deal, which will see the sale of real machines, Bobcat says that it will manufacture the compact excavators as it normally does, diesel engine and all, and then it will pass those machines along to Green Machine, where those excavators will be retrofitted with a lithium-ion battery. Now, from there, Green Machine, not Bobcat, will handle the sale of these newly electrified excavators. So you won't be able to run down to the local Bobcat store in the next few months and pick one of these things up. You're going to have to go through Green Machine. However, unlike the Takeuchi models that Green Machine currently retrofits and sells on its website and other channels, the Bobcat branding is not going to be removed from these machines. Even though the electric retrofit will be completely handled by Green Machine and sold by Green Machine, the excavator is still going to look 100% like a Bobcat from the outside. And like I said, it's a bit of a unique situation, right? Here's the other thing. While Bobcat says retrofitted electric excavators will go on sale this year, we don't yet know what size or what model of excavator Bobcat is going to be passing along to Green Machine as of yet. They haven't said. In its press release for this announcement, Bobcat included a photo of an E50 compact excavator. So one would assume that model will be part of this deal. However, at ConExpo, where Bobcat showed off some of the work it had been doing with Green Machine on excavators, the excavator they showed there was much smaller than an E50. Now, when I reached out to Bobcat to make sure that I understood all of this correctly, I also asked if there were any other specific models in the works, and while they confirmed that I had the basic agreement in place, they didn't give me a response on what specific models would be a part of this deal in time for taping. Now, the other important thing to know about these Green Machine retrofitted Bobcat electric excavators is that while they will be battery powered, they'll still have hydraulics. So obviously that means that they aren't technically fully electric machines, as there will be at least some fluid running through them. And as I said earlier, at ConExpo back in March, Bobcat brought some examples of this type of electric hydraulic machine that it's working on with Green Machine. Now, the first of these was a prototype excavator that would be a brand new model for the company called the E17E. And looking at the current compact excavator lineup at Bobcat, this machine would presumably slot between Bobcat's smallest model, the 1.1 metric ton E10, and the 2 metric ton E20. Like I said earlier, much smaller than the E50. The other electric hydraulic machine that Bobcat showed at ConExpo was the S70E prototype, a modified version of the company's smallest skid steer, the S70. Now, in terms of charging times and how much run time you'll get out of these electric hydraulic machines during a workday, and bear in mind that these numbers could change because both of these machines are just prototypes. But the E17E has a charge time of only 4 hours, which is at this point impressively low. And it has a run time of 8 hours if you're using the machine to 100% of its capabilities. And what that means is that you could get as much as 12 or 14 hours off of a charge if the workload is light enough. Now, the S70E skid steer, while it's going to get you roughly that same 8-hour battery life as that E17E compact excavator, that's really what Bobcat is trying to do here, is get you a full 8-hour kind of workday to a charge. While it will give you that similar runtime, because the battery has to be a little bit larger in this machine to achieve that runtime, the charge time is 6 hours on this machine. Now, as we're going to get into in just a little bit, these electric hydraulic machines are really just a first step, or kind of like a stopgap solution on the way to an all-electric future. But there is, at least one positive to these machines, or to this kind of combination, and that is that when you have a battery powered machine with hydraulics, you actually retain most of the feel of operating a traditional diesel powered machine, since your implements remain hydraulic. However, while you do significantly lessen your maintenance time and costs on this type of machine, some OEMs actually say by as much as 90% compared to a traditional machine, you'll still have to maintenance those hydraulics. And just to be clear, the overwhelming majority of machines, prototype or otherwise, that I've seen introduced in recent years, be it from Volvo or Case or Bobcat or whoever else, all of those machines have been like this, with this combination of lithium-ion batteries and hydraulics. For instance, the Case 580 EV backhoe that I mentioned earlier, that Case built with the help of Green Machine, that is powered by a lithium-ion battery pack tied into hydraulics. And because of that quick electric torque, Case told us at the show that that machine offers better performance than its diesel-powered counterpart. Now, another benefit to this stopgap, first step, hybrid, solution, whatever you want to call battery and hydraulics, is that the 580 EV is already in production, albeit a made-to-order mode of production, but it's still in production thanks to Green Machine's help. And while it's clearly only a first step, due to the fact that you could see run times as little as 4 hours on the 580 EV, especially if you're pushing the machine to its max or heavily leaning on the hydraulics, it's a clear indicator that Green Machine has gotten good enough at integrating batteries and hydraulics that OEMs already feel comfortable displaying and even selling this machine setup to customers, getting it out the door. The thing is, this combination or setup, or whatever you want to call this mashup of battery and hydraulics, it's not the end goal. And everybody knows that. And Bobcat is already working on the actual end goal. So at ConExpo, it showed off the fully electric T76E, an all-electric modification of the company's new T76 compact track loader. Now, the T76E that was on hand at ConExpo was equipped with a lithium-ion battery pack for power, along with electric motors and, more importantly, electric actuators instead of hydraulic actuators. Now, the biggest advantage with moving to electric actuators, and look, if I'm off base here, please, any engineers watching, feel free to correct me in the comments, but as far as I'm aware, the big advantage to electric actuators when it comes to construction equipment is their precision. And that means that operators might feel like they're operating a completely different machine when they hop inside a machine with electric actuators for the first time. A fully electric machine is going to deliver torque almost instantly, and the actuators will offer precise tool or bucket positioning that hydraulics simply can't match. Now, while I was at ConExpo, I had the chance to speak with Britta Kopp, and Britta is Bobcat's marketing manager for innovation. So here's what she had to say about presenting an all-electric prototype at this moment in time, and about all of the benefits that an all-electric machine like the T76E that Bobcat had on display can deliver.
We really wanted to push the industry. Basically, we know what's capable with hydraulics, and we know also what's not capable, what's holding the machine back with hydraulics. On a full electric platform, your precision and your finite controls are just exponentially increased. So your capabilities of the machine are truly based on math and coding and programming that computer to do exactly what you want it to do. So you have so much more flexibility in the ability of the machine to do what needs to be done.
Now, in her comments there, Britta actually keyed in on another totally different aspect of precision when it comes to electric actuators, and that's the degree of precision that this technology gives Bobcat engineers when they're developing a specific machine and its specs and capabilities. Essentially, Britta says that when you have a battery and you have electric motors and actuators, the machine's capabilities or its limitations no longer come as a result of its hardware or components. Horsepower isn't dependent on a larger or smaller engine anymore. Tool capability isn't dependent on the amount of hydraulic flow. Instead, Britta says that in an electric machine, an all-electric machine, all of these things now depend on code.
It's all coded in there, so it's a computer programmer going in and putting in the exact numbers you want all of your performance specifications to be. So if you want it to be an exact horsepower, you program that number in and that's what it hits. So all of your traditional breakout speeds and lift capacities and all of that is all based on a programmed code. So you really have that precision in all of it. You're not hindered by the capability of a hydraulic system or a drive motor system.
And right there is where we see another big shiny reason for Bobcat to really push this approach to electrification forward. Last year at the Next Is Now event that I mentioned earlier, Bobcat announced that it would start building in more commonality between its new R-Series skid steers and compact track loaders that roll off its assembly line. Essentially, every new Bobcat CTL and skid steer would be manufactured with all available options equipped and on board. And when a customer purchases one of those options, like high flow hydraulics, for example, they'll be toggled on or off digitally at the dealership. Now, if that sounds familiar, a couple of car makers have actually kind of toyed around with this idea and rolled it out to quite a bit of controversy, but you know, different industries, different strokes. But a fully electric machine whose source code controls horsepower, breakout speeds, lifting capacities, and more, that would give Bobcat or any other OEM the ability to make one machine that replaces several different models. Then you come in, tell your dealer what amount of capability you need, and that's what you pay for. And rather than models being defined by more components or less components, they would be differentiated by a few taps on an iPhone at the dealership. But I digress. And getting back to what you can expect from these electrified machines and how they're going to differ from traditional diesel-powered counterparts, Bobcat says that even though hydraulics are known for their ability to kind of generate a huge amount of force, there won't be any power drop-off at all when you move from hydraulic to all-electric actuators. Plus, an all-electric machine brings maintenance and service costs essentially down to zero. And removing the hoses, pumps, filters, and all of that other bulk that hydraulics require you to route through a machine, that frees up a lot of space. Now, that being said, it's unclear whether or not OEMs will be able to, or if they would make use of this freed up space, especially when you consider the fact that, you know, large electric machines are going to need large batteries. But there might be some possibilities in the way of improving visibility, or maybe just freeing up a little bit of cab space. I mean, just take a look at the engine compartment of the T76E prototype that Bobcat had at ConExpo. With the engine removed and replaced by this battery system, there's a ton of unused space in there. Now, there are a litany of ways this could change the design of skid steers and CTLs in the future. Getting back to the core difference between an electric and a diesel machine, at ConExpo, Britta told me that a battery and electric actuator combination delivers a faster, quieter, more precise, and more efficient machine with a bit of a learning curve when it comes to getting used to the different feel of the controls.
Learning new controls is always gonna, you know, there's a learning curve to it, but you can really expect it's either on or off. So like your speed to do things is going to be increased. Your torque, like you said, your breakout speed, your torque, it's really just going to be all or nothing.
Now, when Britta says this all-electric T76E is all or nothing, she's talking about power availability, how quickly it can tap into power. And because there's no engine, there's no RPMs ramping up or down, slowing down power delivery. And because of that, electric powertrains deliver torque at a much faster rate than traditional diesel or gas drivetrains. And so having more power more quickly available will definitely take some getting used to for operators, but I mean, that's a good problem. Britta also said that the availability and the quick delivery of that power won't decrease with your battery life, and that's a really big point. You can expect the same performance at a full charge at the beginning of your day as you'll have with 5% or less of a charge at the end of the day. Okay, so when can you expect to see electric Bobcat machines, either all electric or this electric hydraulic combination, hit the market? Well, the electric hydraulic will definitely be first. Like I said earlier, the Green Machine retrofitted Bobcat excavators are going to go on sale through Green Machine's channels at an unspecified point in time later this year. Now, the all-electric machines like that T76E that was at ConExpo, those are a different story. Britta tells me that Bobcat has working prototypes of that machine in the field today, and she added that within 1 or 2 years, Bobcat plans to scale up these field tests with more machines on more customer job sites, hoping to perfect this all-electric drivetrain before a full rollout, which could come in the next 5 years or so. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up on our overview of Bobcat's deal with Green Machine to bring electric compact excavators to the market later this year, but also Bobcat's work on fully electric machines and how those machines might change the construction industry entirely. But we want to know what you guys are thinking. What do you think of electric machines all of a sudden being on the horizon? Is this good news? Is it bad news? Are you excited? about the potential of a fully electric machine and that quick delivery of power, let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video or found the information in it useful in any kind of way or just interesting, please do us a favor and hit that like button below. It really helps our channel out and make sure that we can continue bringing these in-depth machine overviews to you week after week. And if you want more of those in-depth videos on construction equipment, trucks, gear, and more, subscribe to our channel today and hit the bell, turn on notifications so you're getting up-to-the-minute alerts whenever we drop a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We always appreciate your time, and we will see you next time.